Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number 277D US26D Satin Chrome Privacy Door Latch is what this is. This is a modern version of the good old door chain, which involved into the door guard. The door chain, a couple of mounting points, you take that chain and a little knob and secure it to the portion on the door. That turned into the same concept with a flip guard. Okay, you'd flip that item over the end of your strike, and when you pull that door open. The problem with both of those units is that they're not handicap compliant and they're not permissible for use on fire-rated doors. The Hager 277D design does meet both of those requirements. And how so? Well, first of all, the handicap compliance, the shape of the lever itself, okay, the operation of the locking lever has been reviewed and found compliant with the guidelines in A117.1, the document that defines usable spaces, usable building construction, and hardware, many other items. How many parking spots are in a parking lot as well. All facets of handicap compliance for public buildings. That was signed into law in 1990 and was phased into active management to active adherence with the law in the rest of the 1990s, from what I understand. 1991 is really where the rubber met the road with handicap compliance. So this design is handicap compliant, but also this is what it looks like in the locked state. Okay? Okay? My door is going to hit here and won't be able to open. If I were to open the door and I were to throw that trigger, the door closing is going to push that trigger closed. That's what makes it fire rated permissible as well, because it will not interrupt the two. There are 3 rules for fire doors. 2 of them are cardinal rules. They're all cardinal rules. Self-closing and self-latching. You can't have a door flip guard keeping that door from latching. A door is only good when it's closed, doing the job it's intended for, and a fire-rated door is only a fire-rated door when it's in the closed position. So this piece of gear is going to permit you to allow you to have that small amount of movement on the door opening, not very much, into your hotel, motel application. You see them in hotels every time. Maybe not this design, but you see the concept all the time. And you'll do so in a code-compliant way. So you really see people purchasing this style, and in the bushel loads when they're doing a hotel of 400 rooms. Yeah, there's 400 of these things on order. So what is included in the package, box packaging, fasteners, obviously for application to either a wood frame or a steel frame. You're going to get both. What's nice about this is there's only an installation on one side of the opening. It goes onto the frame only. There's nothing to attach to the door. It's going to include installation instructions, which are linked to down below, and we're going to dive into those. Okay. Before we do so, let's talk about the other finishes that this Hager 277D is available in. This would zinc-based material. I was going to say it's not brass. This is a zinc-based material. That does a couple of things. It makes the item heavy, and it affords a very good finish. The satin chrome on this looks very nice. Certainly does. Speaking of those finishes, US 10B for oil-rubbed bronze, US 26 for, and I'm looking at my screen, US 26 for polished chrome, US 26D for satin chrome, which is the item that we have here, US 3 for polished brass, and US 4 for satin brass. A hallmark of all items, with the exception of ball bearing steel or ferrous-based steel or stainless steel-based hinges, is that the hardware must be not only listed, but they must be labeled. They must bear visual proof that this has been subjected to a fire test and found to be compliant. You must have the label on there. Why is that label important? Because it tells the authority having jurisdiction, the person who's conducting the audit on the fire doors, that the hardware installed complies with that mandatory requirement. You don't want to install something on there that's never been tested because you don't have a fire door. Well, some people say, well, it'll still work. How do we know? It's never been tested. And we have to conclude that it won't work because we have no evidence to prove otherwise. Let's switch to the screen view and look at these supporting documents that we have uploaded here. Now, this is the item here that we're looking at, and the extended description information down below tells us that it's a privacy door latch, material satin chrome. It should say material zinc finish satin chrome. Dimensions, projection, we'll go over those dimensions. 3 of those 12 by 1.75" flat Phillips head sheet metal screws, and then 3 12/24 flat undercut head machine screws. Fire rated and ADA permissible. Okay, and we have our fastener package, and then again here, installation instructions and product catalog. Let's tackle the product catalog first, because that will be the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. That's not a good sign. And there we go. 277D. So in this 4-page catalog of miscellaneous other builders hardware, trim and auxiliary hardware, you do certainly see the good old-fashioned door guard. That's the one that's not fire rated. Okay, that's the one that's not handicap compliant. Even though, yeah, no, you can certainly see why it wouldn't be. You know, it might be quite a challenge when this is in the open position to be able to get that pushed down. You know, this design, however, is the 277D. Okay, NFPA 80 is our standard for fire safety, is what it is. It's a code. NFPA 80 becomes code when it's been referenced by a local code like the IBC or whatever your local building code is. But NFPA 80 is a standard. So that document is there. It will show you the different pieces of hardware, door viewers, whatnot. Miscellaneous, just like it's titled. Now, to the installation instructions. Just waiting for that document to load, obviously. So here are indeed the installation instructions that are included with the paperwork. And, you know, this document right here is where it shows everything that we're dealing with. That's what it shows what it looks like. Okay? Let's originate, you know, a document. Let's make a little sketch of what it will indeed look like. So, assuming that we've got a fire-rated door, let's just assume it's a wood door and a steel frame. Okay. And you're going to install your door guard contraption basically here. Well, that flip guard, it stays neatly tucked. It stays, I started getting that wrong. It stays neatly tucked here. Okay, and its pivot point is about here. Oh, you can't see any of that. I apologize. Let's start that over. Okay, so you're going to have your door. Well, your door guard is going to mount here. And your lever pivot point is here. And that lever is going to sit here. And when you push on this section and turn it this way, it's going to take this and it's going to make this pop out right like this. Then this line goes to here. Okay, what happens is now that door is going to open, it's going to make contact, and it's going to leave you a small amount of room here for margin. And that amount of room, as you can see here, is quite small, whatever it might be. you know, maybe a 1/4 inch. We can actually kind of gauge that. We can absolutely determine that by measuring our hardware. Let's switch to the camera view to measure that. So that's what we were trying to show. You flip that out, and it's here. This is your face of your frame to where the door would reside. If your door is 1 3/4 and the door has a small inset to it of 3/32 of an inch, and that's about 2 inch, you're going to have somewhere just heavy on 1/8 of an inch margin that you're going to see there. You're not going to see a lot of this material. Pardon me, you're not going to see a lot of seam in the door. And that's where that comes from. While we've got this piece of equipment, let's go over the rest of the dimensional properties, and then we'll go back to the installation instructions. The rest of the dimensional properties that they're talking about, there is, on the installation instructions, they don't give us any dimensional properties, but in the extended description they do. 2 5/8 tall, yeah, that makes sense. 1 9/16 wide is the base. A little shy maybe. Total projection in the closed position looks like it's about 2 1/8. And again, when that's thrown, well, you'll have an overall of right at about 2 5/8. That portion that's going to hang over the face of the door is going to be about 1 5/16, and then again, you know, our opening size. So your 1 3/4 door is going to reside inside of there. It's going to leave almost a 1/4 inch. That inset I mentioned earlier doesn't really apply. So let's switch this video back to the camera view and, pardon me, to the screen view, and let's take a look at those installation instructions. So back to our installation instructions. These are the tools required. If you're doing a steel frame, hopefully that frame has been reinforced. If it has not been, then I don't see a realistic way to confidently install the material. So depending on your wall construction, you know, you might need to, you're going to need to determine what's behind there. Is there a wood stud behind here? Is there a metal stud? Very likely a metal stud. Was the frame reinforced? If it was, then yes, you'll drill and tap as they're calling out. Otherwise, you know, that could be an issue. Okay, so you'll need to determine how your wall construction has been made to account for this material. So open position, closed position. Now that we've really detailed what it looks like, this is really the business end, okay, of what we're talking about. They say your door and frame must have 1/8 of an inch maximum gap. Why are they telling you a maximum gap? Why don't they say a minimum gap, or say, you know, some other dimension, I suppose? They're telling you 1/8 of an inch maximum gap. Very likely because NFPA 80 states that the maximum gap on a single door that's a wood door between the edge of the door and the jamb cannot be greater than 1/8 of an inch. A hollow metal door can be 1/8 of an inch plus or minus a 1/16 or plus a 1/16, because hollow metal doors have a tendency to swell when they get really hot. Wood doors actually contract a little, is what they say. So you can't be greater than 1/8. But what they're really also saying here is that you do need to have a healthy margin, or a margin between the door and frame that will not only permit the door to work correctly, and you'll need 1/8 of an inch if you have a square edge door, but also such that you do also maintain this 1/16 of an inch offset so that, you know, you're getting the door installed correctly. Pardon me, you're getting the hardware. And the point being is that if you hold it further over on the frame, it will obviously still work, but then your engagement over here will be lessened. Okay, so that 1/8 of an inch, you know, I don't know why they're instructing, they're specifying that. That is certainly a code concern, but I don't, you know, if you had a 1/4 inch gap or something excessive like that, or even more, they might mention that so that you get maximum contact to the face of the door. And perhaps the way it was tested was with an 1/8 of an inch maximum gap and a 1/16 of an inch. So this value here is what they might be really deriving for us. Determine the mounting height. Recommend 10 to 12 inch above the interior lever. Be mindful to keep that within the restraints of handicap compliance. You're really going to be looking at a maximum to the top of the unit of 48 inch. Place the latch on the frame so the bracket is inset a 1/16 of an inch. Once the latch is in the desired position on the frame, mark your 3 holes, center punch and drill your pilot holes. Install your sheet metal screws or whatever you're using, or what I mean to say is your template machine screws if you're tapping. Check to make sure the swing arm rotates to the closed position when the door swings completely closed. Also verify that the door will open without issue when the swing arm is in the closed position. So what they're saying is, in the closed position, this is closed, open the door, then open the unit, let the door close, and make sure everything closes and latches. That will be the test to be sure that you are compliant with the requirements for listed hardware. Frame reinforcement is required. When using a Timely frame, use the TA10 reinforcement bracket supplied by Timely. You know, I have no idea what that is, and I'd like to know. I don't do residential, or I should say light grade, you know, frames used in hotel work. All right, TA10. Regular arm closer reinforcement. I don't see how that's going to work. I'm not sure what the plan is there. You know, one thing that you could also do would be to install, you know, it's not been tested this way, but you could also use a jack nut, which we sell those as well. The issue is I don't think we have any that are 1224, but this sort of concept will allow you to review, install something to a hollow application. So you might need to investigate that a little deeper. TA10, like I said, I don't see how that's going to work. Regular arm closer reinforcement. No idea what the plan is there. You know, if you've got hollow metal doors and frames, hollow metal frames with wood doors, and this on the hardware set, proper application, proper detailing would tell you to reinforce for this item. Absolutely. And then you would detail the item as template machine screws, or forgive me, you know, machine screws is what you would call out. Okay, so that concludes the installation review. Let's finish up this video on camera. Okay, so this item, nice quality item from Hager. They're not the only people who make and offer this, but Hager is certainly an excellent source for this material. Hager is a company that is the proverbial saying, they are in it to win it. They are heavily invested in the growth, the aggressive growth of their company, improving their systems. I have had the deep pleasure of recently being in a 5-day class from DHI with their head of specification writing for Hager, an absolute near infinite wealth of knowledge. Someone who understands the project specification portion, writing specifications, conveying the actual needs of the end user and client in such a way that I was instantly a better detailer, estimator, specifier from that class. Instantly better. And if that's what Hager's doing, then they're certainly doing something right. Hager has a very loyal client base, and that link below this video to the manufacturer's page will allow you to review not only all the Hager products we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as link to their full product catalog. Their namesake is Hager Hinge. They've literally been in business since the mid-19th century. They sell a lot more than hinges, though. Lock sets, exit devices, electrified hardware, door closers, weather stripping, sliding door track and hangers, trim and auxiliary, weather stripping. It goes on and on. Everything for the door and frame except the door and frame. So if you have any questions on the Hager 277D in a satin chrome finish or any other Hager product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.